Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, I hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay, on this deep, deep Monday afternoon.
The market was seeking deeper discounts today with a
And
pretty big sell off. Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to At the Buzz, our market recap. Yeah, what a day. I did not expect going into the weekend on Friday. I don't think many people expected some of the price action that we've seen, but that is why we love the markets, volatility across the board. And we'll talk about it. But welcome to At the Buzz, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that we have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay. Been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 13 years and in the futures markets for the past 6, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since May of 2023 as a performance coach. I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some of my experience and knowledge and hopefully assist you in becoming a better trader.
Awesome. And shout out to all of the new profiteers and tech titans. We did have the first round of the Topstep VIP draft. 100 traders picked today. Those names were shared during the daytime stream. Coach Paul getting 50 new traders, Coach Robert 50 new traders as well. If you didn't see it, if you're on social media, the posts are on Twitter and Instagram. So you can check those posts out if you haven't seen whether or not your name is on that list. Coach, you excited to work with a new group of traders?
I'm very excited. A fresh group. Still want to keep in contact with some of my old,
Yeah,
but bringing new ones and competition. Maybe competing with the lunatics a little bit. Um, but actually, I enjoy as a coach. I enjoy teaching. As you teach, you learn,
100%.
um, and maybe even discover a few things myself. So. It's a great program. I'm excited for the new season 2 edition and
Awesome. Let's do
ready
it.
to
The
get
draft for
going.
the Lunatics is going to be on Wednesday morning, but we have two teams being picked every day this week. So I believe Nick Fortick and Anne Marie's teams are being picked tomorrow. And we will have more drafts late throughout the week. We got a little robot Coach Paul, but I think that's on my side. Give me 1 second here. Coach, give me an audio check real quick.
Check, check, check.
All right, that
One, two, three, four.
should be better there. We'll get a confirmation in a minute.
Well,
But
I am not a robot. I am a human being.
back to normal. I thought you got in the AI game yourself, Coach, with with this DeepSeek news. Um,
You never know.
you
You
never
just
know.
never know.
We are not real. Let's see. As far as news goes, planned news, we had new home sales out. Uh, Came in at 0.698 million. Forecast was 0.675 million. But we know what the big news was. We actually saw, and Dakota was talking about it a little bit last night. But we had, of course, our new president talking about tariffs and a 25% tariff on Colombia. Um, and that looked like potential for the downside move. I think Colombia reverted with a 50% tariff on any U.S. goods, and then everyone was like, "Okay, never mind. Hold on, we're not going to do that." But while that was going on, we had the news out of China with DeepSeek and their uh, AI competitor to ChatGPT, which was said to be made at a much cheaper price. Right? I think the price was $6 million. Is that right, Coach?
6 million and with 90% less energy.
That would be a huge game changer.
Yeah, well, we'll go deeper into the subject after we review this. But if it's legit, it's a huge breakthrough.
For sure.
But talk is cheap, margin costs money. As traders, we have to watch our bottom line and trade within our means. So I'll tell you what, it's going to keep volatility fresh, and
100%.
volatility equals opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it.
I am as well. So let's get right into the markets then. I just realized I'm going to have to log out of this, log into the other one. So we can take a look at the quote board. There are 35 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts, not just the equities, although the equities were the star of the show today. To the downside, today we had the Nasdaq down 2.76%, the Nikkei down 3.5%, and natural gas down 6.09% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we had the 30-year bonds up 1.05%, the ultra bonds up 1.25%, and lean hogs up 1.64% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. Shout out to Coach Hoop. Uh, our big four, we already mentioned the NASDAQ down 2.74%. We had crude oil down 2.08%. The S&Ps down 1.32%, and gold down 1.2% to round out our big four. I have a NASDAQ chart up here. Gonna go with a 30-minute chart. Actually, let's go out to a daily, Coach, because I heard you and Coach Vince mention this pattern a couple months ago when we had one. What do we got going on here, Coach?
The
Just a little
gap
island top? Is that what that is?
island. Well, no, not really an island top, but an engulfing candle. If if there was one day on top, without anything on either side, that would be an island.
Got you.
Um, but you
It's
know,
like a broken leg pattern.
it's a it's
Tried to run and it broke
uh,
its leg.
it's called panic
Mm.
on a headline, and this is very interesting. And this is what trading is all about. We're not investors.
Yep.
I could wax poetically about an opportunity to buy, or this is the top. If you find yourself talking like that, take a deep breath, compose yourself. You're a trader. You're here to trade your trading plan, whatever the pattern is. In the short term, we're day traders.
100%.
So, um, it did bring some volatility. What was interesting, it was that low was made at what, 4:30 Central Time this morning.
Yep.
So let's begin.
Let's get into it. I'll go down to a 30-minute chart. Of course, we had the gap down. The one thing I'm looking at here, we've been talking about this FOMC candle since it printed, basically, and not being able to trade outside of that range. On Friday, we closed above it, and we talked about the potential for the markets to trade back up. But right after we said that, we said, but anything can happen. And when you get news like the news that we got, that's something. It happened, and it changed the structure of the market. So we opened up with a let's see how big this gap was. Does anyone know how to use that measurement tool? Why did I just forget? Hold on a second.
You're the master. Well, let's get Coach Robert back.
There we go. So we opened up with about a 0.6% gap down, and there was not a buyer in sight this entire day. Here's a 30-minute opening range, Globex opening range. We'll attach a VWAP to it there. Talk about urgency. This is a huge move. At one point in the Nasdaq, we were down 5% from settlement, which was up here at 21,911. Down to that low, we were, there was the conversation about circuit breakers, right? Where if you're in a Topstep account, you can't trade within 2% of that circuit breaker number, which is going to be 7%. Um, This was a dramatic move. This wasn't a, oh, the market's just sold off because of tariffs and, they'll backtrack on the headline. So we'll see the market pop back up, which we've seen recently. This was different. This was something different. Could be tough to trade either way, right? Because we've seen some of the volatility and the reversals of these patterns. But this is one, and Andrew just put it in the chat, how many people may have gotten in trouble trying to buy it to close the gap here. Uh, Coach, I mean, I see.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Here-
Go ahead.
Actually, it was funny. I was perusing through
Hmm.
this most outstanding book, Anchored VWAP
Okay.
by Brian Shannon. There's a section on gap
Okay.
trading.
Yeah.
And anchor a VWAP to the opening of the gap. That would be that.
Yep.
So interesting. Here's a lesson. If that gap would need to be bought, that first candle, and then you would have urgency with the VWAP breaking out to the upside. So just picture that and think about that, the principles of that. It was urgency to the downside.
Yep.
Can the gap be filled at another time? Most likely, yes. Could it be tomorrow?
Maybe.
50-50. Yeah.
Right. Right.
But we can't worry about tomorrow, and that's why on that opening, from a perspective of just price, just the
Mhm.
price, I can't sell this. This is too friggin' cheap.
Right.
Now, I've suffered from that, but just don't just focus on the price action.
Yep.
Part of price action is volume. Um, that volume in VWAP, looking at that as we've studied it over time, is there's no buying here.
No.
And there will be no buying until it gets cheap enough. It's almost, it's getting boring. Call me an asshole. I don't, it's
It's
getting like,
okay. Yeah, good trading is boring, right?
right. It should be boring. If you want excitement, you can find all sorts of excitement. But there's the tail. So for it to fill the gap, it should have been bought right off the get go, and VWAP leaving the range. So it took me a long time to really learn that lesson of just getting away from price.
Hmm.
Price alone, and from what I've learned from Peter Stottlemyre, is an advertisement for where the action is. It's time and sales. Okay, we made this trade, put it in the time and sales, but you get more data with volume. And man, just look at that. Was that bought?
No, not until we made this low. We'll talk about what happened at this low, but
Yeah.
no, not even a little bit. And maybe you want to buy it. You might say, I'm bullish equities, and for a good reason, right? They go up and to the right, but when it's days like this, try to fight that urge, right, as much as you can. If you didn't catch the short, not longing this is a winning trade, right? We talked about this a little bit yesterday, on Friday. I can't remember the trader, but it was Mo. Mo was saying, "Oh, I wanted to short gold because it was just up too much." Same thing here. Oh, I want to buy the Nasdaq because it's down too much. You can't keep going down like this, and it can, and it did it quick. Um, that 5% move happened in 6 hours. Uh, Very quick move. So you know if you guys see how we view the markets, I'm looking at this, and the last thing I want to do is buy. I was not able to catch most of this sell. Was just not feeling well last night, so didn't trade. But very happy to not have bought this here because the flows were very heavy to the downside. Let's go down to a shorter time frame chart, Coach, because we talk about that
Mhm.
that low. And they must have heard
Uh,
us. They must have heard us on Friday saying we haven't we haven't gotten a J trade in a little while. They said, okay, let's give them one
which is it?
at
We'll
the
show you a J trade.
we'll show you a J trade at the low of a 5% move. So if you guys we're asking, what that J trade is, basically a high volume move, and then a reversal above it. The highest volume of the day was here at 4:51 Central Time, 4:51 a.m. And this was the J trade, right, where we have the highest volume outside of anything else that we've seen, and the market closing above that price. Now, a couple of different ways you can trade it. We can see 50% of it holds. We can see the candles closing above it. Once these candles close above, look at how the market respects that price here, where we come back down and test it, attaching a VWAP to this as well, where it ended up being the low of the day in this case. And I know there, shout out to Brian Shannon again. He's has suggestions in his book to anchor to the low of the day. But sometimes this reversal doesn't happen at the low of the day. So anchoring to that highest volume, and then same way we would read any other ranges, how does volume react to this event? And from that point, that was the buying that we saw right now. Whether this is short covering, new buyers coming in because the markets are at a 5% discount, this happened right around that 5% level.
Which Hoag likes to talk about, where big money comes in, 5% correction off all-time highs. That was 5% correction in a couple hours.
Right. Yeah, 5% correction in a couple hours. And then you can see it, right? Almost the exact opposite of the open, where the market now respects this volume and in a really nice trade, right? So, talking about where the reversals have a DNA, right? R- All chart patterns have a DNA. Now, could you see the markets being down like this and say, hey, I want to buy this? Sure. If you're buying it looking for a reversal, though, identify the characteristics of a reversal and then wait for those to present themselves to you. Now, there might have been a couple, if I'm looking at a shorter time frame, this could have been one here, right? This was decently high volume compared to what we had outside of that open. This has the potential for it. What's the difference here, though? Right? If we're looking at characteristics of a reversal, why is this one not as convincing as the other? It's that VWAP never really convincingly leaves that range. Price does. This is pretty much flat, right? Where if we look at the other example of it, as soon as we printed here high volume, that VWAP got out of there.
Boy, that
Um,
was very dramatic.
yeah,
Wow, look at that. I mean, that volume was twice as any size of any other volume for the night.
yep, yeah. It
Well,
was more. It was more volume than the opening candle. At
but I think, I
Go
like
ahead, coach.
what you like you framed out. Could this be a one to buy? The last one you framed out?
Right,
No, actually, let's say you just bought that.
it's not a bad buy.
It's not a bad buy. But I mean, was that a 2 to 1? I don't think so with this kind of volatility. But this is you're gonna hear me on this theme. Day trades 2 to 1 risk rewards. Take the money, put it in your pocket, look for another trade.
Yep. Yeah, you got about depending on where you took this trade, you got about a 1 to 1, um,
Okay.
which is great. A 50 point trade in the Nasdaq at night, that could be your day. You don't even look at the charts for the rest of the day, right? But remember what the flow of the market was at this point. This is a pull up to take a short, to get back into that short.
Yeah. Here's another. Would we talk about I want to bring one of the principles of successful traders: accept the risk or don't take the trade. Now you had some risk. Another one is if it closes back under VWAP, I want to just bail because we were playing for a bigger move. Also, the original VWAP had not, you haven't closed over it. So it still has some heaviness. But yeah, I mean, measuring that, you might not, one of the things Coach Jay and I try to do is not make this a, you know, picking the winners.
Yeah. Yeah, we could pick. So we could just say, hey, you guys are supposed to sell it up here at 705, buy it back down here at 760, and then sell it again up. Like,
No.
no, we're traders, right? We're gonna sometimes things are gonna look like signals, and you're gonna take it. But once you do, uh, it's about knowing how that signal fits in the overall structure of the market.
Yeah, I mean, it's about taking risk. No, that take that trade. Okay, right. And at one point, that looks like this could keep going. Um, but exit. We don't talk about too much exit strategy.
Yeah,
Uh, an exit strategy on that trade, you could have scratched or made a little, or lost reasonably. But let's say that exit strategy has to be understood when you enter the trade, not after. Who amongst us gets in a trade without an exit strategy and then gets stuck with anxiety of "Well, this has to keep going? The market, and then you get into a series of emotional and panic decisions. I don't know how that works for most people. Yeah, I do. Uh,
it's usually a terrible decision.
you're just relying on luck, and luck goes both ways. So, um, anything you're doing, have an exit strategy. Um, if there a good general plans for an exit strategy of a battle, exit strategies in war. It's strategy. When I was a kid, it was an exit strategy when the trouble was coming. When I was not at church.
Yeah.
Um, but having a good exit strategy is imperative. We don't talk about it too much, but that one just sparked it for me. You can buy that. You're not marrying it. Like, be prepared to exit, have that set so you're comfortable with the risk. If you're not, don't take the trade.
100%. Uh, Oak Torch says, "Can you give everyone a walkthrough of what you're looking for a J trade?" Yeah, I'm going to go through a couple of trade examples. We put on a couple of trades in during fast markets today. So I do want to go through those, but basically what we're looking at is high volume, a reversal, and volume leaving that range, right? So get a high volume candle here. It's an anomaly compared to everything else around it. I'm going to frame out the high and the low of that candle, and then I'm trading it the same way as a opening range breakout trade, right? Where if VWAP leaves the range convincingly, then I'm looking to trade as close as possible to VWAP, or a test like this of this opening or of this range is confirmation that the market is done trading these prices. But you do want to wait for the market to close above with convincing VWAP, because otherwise you can get a false signal similar to the one that we saw up here, right? We got a high volume, tried to leave the range. Price tried to leave the range, volume didn't. This is a false signal for that trade. So true signal is VWAP leaving that range pretty convincingly. Let's get into the New York session open, which is right here. Coach, we had a trader call this out in Discord, and I talked about it during Topstep TV also today. If you look at the high of the move from high of the day from Friday, and the low of this move that we had here, this 5% move,
Did we right to the tick, huh?
pretty close. If you zoom in,
Yeah,
there's a little space in there, but I mean,
good enough for government work.
right. There was a trader that we saw on Top Step TV that was short from around 413s 21,413 up here, and I just had to wonder whether or not they were looking at something like that, right? Just fibs from high and low of the move, because 50% is in that fib sequence. Is that right, or did I just make that up?
50%? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
62 and a half,
so
75.
have to imagine that there might have been a trader that was looking at that, right? High of the move, low of the move. Where's 50%? Really nice rejection right at that spot. Um, you know, and it was okay at this point to think that there's the potential for the market to trade through this imbalance, right? We had a big sell off. Saw there were a couple of traders long, and you had a really nice long trade on here. We actually started looking short at this point in the house account because we also had what was the initial balance high, which is the first hour of trade. Once we rejected up here at these 420s and got back within the initial balance, this is where we took that first short. And it might seem crazy taking a short like this on a 2% up move, um, but the market kind of ran out of steam. Um,
Well, 2% up move on a day was down
right,
2%, and it's relative.
100%.
That's what volatility is all about. It's relative. Um, Nice trade.
So we got into a short here. I think we ended up taking it for a scratch, but the idea was a valid idea, right? We should have just kind of held on to that one, but should have, would have, could have. We didn't, so it is what it is. But once we got back under this VWAP, there were a couple more opportunities that I saw to take a couple trades, and then we're gonna move on to another market from here after this. But we have this 3 minute opening range. We have an anchored VWAP here, and this one here is similar to that J trade, even though I took this one a little bit earlier, right? We pushed up into this anchored VWAP. And coach, you've talked about this one where we have a strong push. That VWAP starts to flatten out a little bit. This is why, to me, this is the perfect short up here, because we were 2.5 ATRs away from from VWAP. Um, that's an amazing short there. Uh, but we got down, bounced off of 50% of that 3 minute opening range, back up to this anchored VWAP, and this is a short here. Now, I will admit I preempted this short. If I'm going with the setup, it should be at the low of this candle, but seeing that rejection at VWAP, taking the short up here at the high of the opening range gives me an opportunity to limit my risk and keep it pretty tight, right? These are bigger range days, higher volatility. So for me, one of two things: I could either put on a position and hold it, or be right. Sorry, be right or wrong fairly quickly, right? So in this one, I said, you know what? I'm gonna take this short, but if I'm wrong, I want to know that I'm wrong because there's potential for 200-point moves in this market, and if I'm wrong, I'm okay getting out. So waiting for this candle to close, we test up to the high of the opening range, taking a short from there. Um, was that trade, and we can see not throwing out these levels, and just kind of building the playbook off of that VWAP setup. And coach, thank you again for pointing that one out. That when VWAP starts to flatten out, giving us some opportunities on the other side, because we can see that 276 was pretty much the high of the move until the close.
Well, if you were really thankful, you would have put that on for me, coach.
I put one on for. It was for both of us. I put one on for both of us.
Thank you. But you're right. I mean, going back, look at that. If we go and if you're testing your strategy, don't don't lay it out like this. Do it one bar at a time. Like like Coach said, if at those highs, to me, that looks like it's going to keep going. That's my personal. Uh, but what happened? It came back into the range, got under VWAP. I don't know, just played around back into the range, and there was a couple trades in there. But I
Yep.
like what you said. You leaned like I'm gonna know right away whether I'm wrong.
Right.
Was that called an exit strategy?
Yep. It's like if you're gonna just rip the band-aid off, if I'm gonna be wrong here. And Oakla Torch said, where would the stop go on this? The stop for me was not too many ticks above the high of this candle. I want to give the high of the candle the space to work. Um, but my stop, so I got in short at 68, and I think I was risking 17 points. So my short was here, and yep, risking 17 points. So right above the high of this candle. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, right? It's not going to cost me a whole lot, and that was the trade from there, right? I could set a wider stop and maybe, but in this case, it's a if this momentum continues to the upside, I don't want to be in the short anymore. All right, so I was going to keep this one pretty tight, and we had this conversation a couple weeks ago. When do you use a two ATR stop? Because I do love two ATR stops. I use them all the time when I take Globex trades, right? When the trade starts overnight, I'm using two ATRs. But when the momentum starts to move around during the New York session, for me, it's just a little bit more comfortable to be wrong quickly, because then I could reassess whether or not my trade location or timing was right. So keeping that stop pretty tight.
And remember, with that 2 ATR stop, doesn't mean you have to wait for it to get hit. Like this, well, let's say you put a 2 ATR stop here and it closes above VWAP.
I'm out.
You got new information. And it
Right.
didn't hit my stop, out.
Yep. Two ATRs was all the way up here at 80 points. And yeah, you had a ton of room before that to see whether or not you still like that trade idea to take it off and not allow it to hit that stop. Why are my orders getting rejected? The markets are closed. The markets are closed right now. So if you're trying to place any orders now, uh, the markets are the markets are closed. Um,
It's a good question.
it's a great question.
Seriously.
Yeah, but you might have a. I mean, my question is, what's the trade idea? Because I want to know. Probably a short right
Yeah.
here. Kind of this topping pattern. Uh, all right, let's get to some of these questions. How is it closed? If you're trading with a TopStep account, just make sure you know the rules of the TopStep accounts. All trades need to be closed by 3:10 Central Time. All right. How do I learn to trade like the top step traders? Well, if you're talking about us coaches, you can join Coach Paul and I here every day for At the Buzzer, Monday through Friday, 3:15 Central Time. We have coaches doing classes in Discord. Coach Hoop does a class every day right after us at 4:30 Central. Coach Ray and Vince do classes at 6 and 7 p.m. Central Time. And then, of course, Dakota with slow markets at 7:30. We have Deanna at 3:30 a.m. Uh, and Nick Fortick on Sundays at 5:45 or 4:45 p.m. Central Time. Excuse me. So a ton of opportunity for you to learn, to ask questions. Come to these sessions, ask any questions about strategy, and we can go from there.
Yeah. There's plenty of opportunity, as coach just described. Um, and I really mean this, and check out all you can.
Yep,
I don't, I mean, as coaches, we'll check in on each other.
100%.
It's always good to get a different perspective. You might find something that makes sense to you that you can add, or um, to your trading plan. Because I strongly recommend creating your trading plan. It could be a little bit of everyone's, but there's you know, uh, yeah, I'm a homer here, but there's great coaching available for you. Take advantage of all of it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. D said, "Am I DJing over here?" No, so I have the audio source set to desktop, and I accidentally clicked on the Top Step day stream, and the Top Step TV playlist was playing. We could just sit here and listen to that if you guys want instead.
Well,
It's pretty good
consider a
music.
little bit. Yeah.
Uh, all right. Anything else you want to talk about on the equities, coach? We do have the Dow that just said forget what everybody else is talking about. Uh, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna rally. Anything else on the equities, coach?
um, n- no, not from me. You
Awesome.
do have a question though, Coach Jay.
Yeah, let's enter it.
why the preference of the 3-minute over the 2 and the 5-minute? In your opinion, does it give a better edge?
Uh, in my opinion, it does. But that's probably because I've been staring at 3 minute charts for I don't even know how long now. Um, I think I've built my entire strategy around it. And it's a preference thing. It could have been a 2 minute chart. It could have been a 7 minute chart. Um, for me, it's identifying a pattern that is going to help me make a trading decision. And I've done so much of my back testing and everything like that on a 3 minute chart that at this point, I'm probably not going to change anything, right? So I'm going to go from a 3 to a 30. But it really was to me, it's an example of pick a time frame and just stick with it long enough for it to tell you when to make a decision in the market based on what you've seen. Right? You could do it with any chart. I think if I spent time with an 11 minute chart over the next 6 months, I'm going to see patterns in it that I can make trading decisions behind, and that's really all it is.
That's a really good point there, Coach. We can see patterns in anything. It's part of our human nature.
Yep.
But get a 3-minute offers. We're day trading. Executing in a 1, 3, 5-minute um, pattern makes sense. Um, so the most important thing is be able to do it consistently. Pick your time frame that you're comfortable with and stay. And one of the biggest troubles you can get into is I got on this in this trade on the 1 minute, but it's not really working out, so I'm going to wait for the 3 minute. No, that's not working out. A 5 minute, and we look for other reasons to why this should work. Um, find your time frame. You could use multiple time frames, high to
Yep.
low, lower, to get direction, but pick that time frame and don't get in and out based on others.
100%. All right. Nothing else on the equities. I want to go back to the Nasdaq real quick because I did mention something during the daytime stream as well, and it was the monthly VWAP. I forgot to post it on Twitter, guys. My bad. I thought about it last Thursday actually, and I'll show you. So I've done this Twitter post every month since I've been on Twitter, and I forgot to do it this month. But the monthly VWAP in the equity markets, we were extended from it, and if you start to plot this on your charts, you'll see that there aren't many months where we get this extended and we don't revisit it. It happens pretty often. But this rejection up here, right around that 420 area where we were talking about, that's 50% of that high to low range, was right around that monthly VWAP also. So just put it on your charts. I put it on, this is a 30-minute chart, and this is anchored to the first half an hour of the month. So 6 p.m. Eastern time on January 1st. And yeah, when we get this far extended, coach, how many ATRs away are we from? This is, 15 ATRs on a 30-minute away from that monthly VWAP.
And that would be interesting study to do. What is the average movement away from ATR in different time frames?
Yeah.
And then anchor another anchored V against that. If
Yep.
you have the time, I think that would be a great study.
If someone has the time, they want to do the study, and then come on at the buzzer and talk to us about it, let us know. Let us know.
Yeah.
All right. All right, coach. Let's go to something else. Where do we want to go from here?
Um, sounds like a rock song. I didn't look at gold. Let's take a look at gold. I was too busy. And then crude. Crude had it keeps moving, but gold.
Looked like it was going to
Rug
make new
pull
all-time highs.
gold.
Yeah, seriously. Um,
Every time. Let's go.
Here's last night's open in gold. We got a question from D in the chat. I want to make sure I get to that one too. But here's last night's open in gold, and we got back below that white line, coach.
Then played at both sides. But just look at that VWAP from the opening. Boy, gold just it never left that opening range.
Nope.
So it's being sold again, and not easily. I mean, now
Yeah.
I keep remembering why I quit trading gold so many years ago.
D
This is
says
more what D
no.
says. What?
D was saying gold was mean to her today.
Yeah. Um. So on the half hour, back to the 200. But look at the shape of look at the curve. There was some slight buying in gold. It did change the slope of the VWAP, but that should drive it to new highs, and it did. So that must have been on some news. Um, but once again, this might be. I'll look at it at the first half an hour on that daily. Still looks good. But what do you say? I mean, I tell you what. The more I look with VWAP when it's sloping down off and open, and I want to buy it, I won't go back.
Yep. I wanted to buy gold. I was very happy I didn't. Actually I did buy gold, and I took it for a scratch. And this is again that you might have an idea, and the market might agree with your idea, and then you're in the best place because then you could just let the trade work. But when your ideas are against what the market is saying, assessing how good of a job the market is doing what you expect it to do, I think is extremely important. For whatever reason, I came in this morning and I wanted to buy gold, and gold was telling me not to buy it. It's like, you might think I'm perfect, but I'm not. Please don't don't buy it. And I convinced myself to buy it. Uh,
Is that your other self?
yeah, I don't know who that was. I don't know how you say J backwards, but it was that guy. Uh,
Yaj.
there we go. But I convinced myself to buy gold. Really, there was really no convincing reason to buy it. But for whatever reason, I put the trade on. Uh, and I put the trade on right around here, 27.53. Got in long, had a trade that was in the profit about 5 points. So I could have taken it there, but I was looking for a much bigger move. But at this
Alright.
point, and you can assess how good of a job the market is doing, what you expect it to do. There was no reason to take a long here, right? So in this case,
Well, I will interject. It's a failed J trade. You had that big volume,
that is true.
exhausted selling, and you broke the highs.
That is
You mean
true.
they don't all work, coach?
I mean,
I'm changing the
I thought I
channel.
was perfect.
I'm going back. I'm going back on Twitter. I'm gonna find the one that has all the winning trades.
I thought I was
But
perfect.
here was I'm gonna give it to you here. I don't. It's yeah. It was worth. With that, just looking at J trade, you lost money,
Yeah,
but what you lost well. You took risk. Now, I think it goes back to it. I- I'm gonna be saying this more and more. Losing money on a trade doesn't make it a bad trade.
100%.
Losing a lot of money on a trade is is bad risk management. But back to the exit strategy. Let me ask you this: what
Mhm.
what got you out of that trade since you bought that, and you really saved the day by exit strategy?
Oh, yeah. Volume never leaving the range got me out, right? I think this was somewhat of a preempt on this trade because of the trend that we've been seeing in gold over the past 2 weeks or so. I looked at this as a pullback and said, okay, yeah, any pullbacks are opportunities to buy. We got down to 27.50, which is, you know, major psych level. We had the volume event at it. But then once I got into this trade, and I actually got in on this test of this VWAP here. Once I got into it, and we looked above rejected. This candle right here, this is where I moved the stop to break even. We also had news coming out at 9 a.m. Central. So I said, I don't, whether I'm in, I was about $100 up in the trade at this point, about 1 point up. And I said, either this trade is going to be a break even or this news event is going to push us to the upside. But I don't love this trade anymore because I'm not getting the confirmation, right? What is the DNA of a reversal? High volume, the market closing above, but volume also leaving that range. Remember what we saw in the Nasdaq? We didn't get it here, right? Where this VWAP stayed in that range. This is telling me, no, it's just not happening here. And like I like what you said there, Coach. It's a failed version of that trade, and I say it all the time. Know exactly what it looks like when your trade ideas don't work out, and this is just an example of that, right? If this VWAP was to catch up to price, then we probably do see a reversal, but it didn't happen, right? And I can't force market participants to buy the market just because I'm in it, right? So if I'm getting in based on volume, if I don't see them buying, then I'm okay getting out.
Great. There you go. There was a great example of an exit strategy.
Yep.
Um, the problem would be is, okay, I'm just going to wait for it to make new highs. Or if you're new, catch yourself on this one. I'll just wait till it gets close and then I'll take a scratch or a little loss. That never works. But it just doesn't. And if it works once, it's going to punish you multiple times. So again, great. I mean, that was against, here's another thing, that's against the flow
Yep.
of the day. So quick out, even if it was a scratch or a small loser. Okay.
Find another one. Anything else you got on gold, Coach?
Um, no. I'm
Awesome.
just
We
getting
got a question here.
seasick looking at
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Seriously, right back into the range. We'll see if this holds up here on it. Let's look at a daily chart real quick. Still in that uptrend. Maybe we got a little extended from the 20 moving average here. Maybe a quick pullback to there.
Uh, Maybe
But
it was a fund that's long. Nasdaq had to raise and gold had to raise some margin capital.
right,
And that's not it. That happens.
that was yeah. It's a good
I
point.
was in a grain room in I was there a long time, but in 2000 during the blow off top on Nasdaq, that happened. Um, Funds have to raise money when a big move like this, like if you're in Nvidia. I mean, you just lost 17% of your profit on one if you bought it at zero. It could be multiples of that. You got to raise cap. We got to raise money. One of the first things a fund manager is going to do is get out of other positions to bring some capital, when especially a margin call. Um, but that could very well have been part of that move.
It's a good point. Good point there. We got a question here from D. Is there an NATR measure you notice as a good trade location for a mean reversion to VWAP? That's a great question. And NATR is in I don't know. I don't remember exactly what the N is, but it's a percentage based ATR, right? So you're not looking at the points. You're looking at this the market moved 0.17%, right? That's how it measures the ATR. I have that actually set in Quantar. That's a good question, D. I haven't noticed it. I think what I've heard you say it a couple times, Coach Paul, but when we start to get, 2, 3 ATRs away from VWAP, we there's potential to see reversals there. But is there anything that you've noticed like, hey, around this, maybe if it's not going to give me a reversal, I don't want to trade in the direction of that trend at that point?
Well, if it doesn't, you're away from volume.
Mhm.
So the game is already
Been
started.
played,
So
right?
I would put it. Do you want to go into if you ever played Risk? Do you want to join in halfway through? Um, you're at a distinct disadvantage. Now, with that said, I would say let's say it's just starting at 2 ATRs, and if it's above, start putting VWAPs on the highs. And then if you like to fade, if that's really going to continue, it should stay below VWAP. So now you can lean against a new VWAP off the highs. And similar to what you were saying earlier, I'm going to find out quickly whether this is going to continue, like that gold trade
Yep.
or the other trade. So um, for day trading, I would say if you have something you bought it and you have 2 ATRs,
Did
be
your job.
ready to do done your job.
I'm gonna
You
see if I
don't have to be there for the whole thing.
no. I'm gonna see if I can bring this up real quick. Give me 1 second. Actually, are there any other markets we want to talk about, or any other questions we want to
Crude.
answer?
Oh,
Crude. Let me bring up crude chart.
quick. I'm going to answer. Micros in a $50,000 account. That I would say 100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's you could do multiples of one lots, but especially in the Nasdaq, if you have a fit, that's $2,000. Nasdaq, the average true range now is like what almost it's like $8,000. You have $2,000 to risk, or $800 daily ATR in the micro. So do the math, manage your risk, and trade micros.
100%. We got crude oil here, coach, on a 30-minute chart, and every pop up above this 50 moving average near this 200 has been an opportunity to sell. We talked about this last week. Sometimes you talk about things and you forget. I don't know if that's old age. I need to start writing things down. Maybe I
What
use
was that,
a
son?
maybe I use an AI agent to remind me when I say certain things. Because I mean, this is a great sell opportunity. We get a bounce up here. Crude has been in a downtrend ever since we hit $80 on the December contract, and just a really nice controlled sell off here.
Do you see a pattern there?
I definitely do. Our friends
Yeah.
in Asia buy it, and then by the time we get to New York, we're
And
selling
then
it.
Coach D comes in and sells it.
Yeah, patterns are patterns until they
Wow.
break, and this has been 7 days now of that same pattern.
Now, well, let's look at the daily really quick.
Why was I not trading crude? Go ahead, coach. What are you seeing on a daily?
Oh, it's just easy for me. I have an option. I have long put spreads. I d
Nice.
But I did not expect this. Oh, no, I don't expect anything.
Mm,
There is just there isn't when we hang our as traders, when we hang it on expectations, another word for expectations, it should, it coulda, it needs to. It doesn't have to do anything. But with this, I'm surprised. What's this? How many days in a row?
I mean, we had one little rest day
Burp.
here,
So
but
we're under
this
the
is
20-day moving average. Now we have more liquidation. That was today's. Next stop, the white line. Put that in
70.
your AI agent
Yeah.
and see how that if it bounces off of there. But I mean, if I know this from my part. I mean, we're still not oversold in crude. When we look from that low to the high, we're in like we're not. I think we're not. We're still higher than 50% correction.
From the low, let's see. Yep. Yeah, we got some space down to 70-ish, 70-50. Still some room. Still some room. Anything we talk about here is
I
educational
guess. I
purposes
guess.
only and not a
Yes.
suggestion to take a trade, but I might be shorting crude. Go ahead, coach. What were you saying?
I I guess the Saudis got the email from the president.
Right.
Uh, because really, is that inauguration day?
Uh, the
20th?
20th. 20th is right here. Yeah,
Okay.
we've just been selling since then.
Hmm.
All right. Let's see. We got 5 minutes left. We got a couple questions in here that I think we want to get to. Uh, how do you guys use RSI? I don't personally use RSI. Coach, you use RSI at all?
No, but I use a something similar,
Okay.
slope. How do you use it? You know, in the short term, if you put up an RSI, um, it's a good. It's really kind of another word for an RSI is relative strength, right? It stands for relative strength index. Another word for that is momentum. Um, so hmm, I'm gonna go with my experience. I misconstrued it
Mm,
when I was younger. Hey, this thing is overbought. AKA 19, in the 1990s, I'm selling S&Ps.
hmm,
Well, it can't continue to go higher. It's overbought. And that was really, really disaster. Well, at least for me, the
yeah.
people on the other side of my trades, it was golden. Um, it's if like today, here we on that opening.
Go ahead.
It's yeah, you can laugh at my expense, please do. As long as we learn the lesson.
Right.
Um, but do you want to establish? I don't want to establish a high when that is up in that up here. It's it's a little late. That's the way I use it now. Um, but don't misconstrue overbought as a sell signal. If I want to buy it and the RSI is up towards the high of the bands, I'm going to wait and it can go without me. That's the way I look at it. But you don't look at it at all.
So I've been trading for a little while now, and I think I've tried almost every indicator that's out there, and I think I probably just didn't spend enough time with RSI to know what a good signal was from it. But I felt like I was always getting caught up in false signals, right? Where it's just like, oh, it's overbought, so sell it. And with anything, right? And it's not RSI's fault; it's my fault for not putting the overall context in the picture. That's not enough context to just take a trade. Here's overbought up
Here's
here, and the market made another 200 points to the upside, 160 points to the upside. So context matters.
here's another thing. I have to put that out there. There is very good reasons to use RSI.
Mm,
It's a good tool. It was developed by Wells Wilder. If you don't know who Wells Wilder is, get familiar. He is the biggest influence in technical trading, at least in the last 50 years.
hmm.
It just goes on and on with Wells Wire. He developed it. He developed a lot of technical tools that we use to this day, moving average. Um, but whatever you're using, keep it simple. If you can get paralysis through over analysis, I shave it down. I came to a point as I lost vision because I had so many things I was looking at, and I'm looking for the perfect trade. Well, there is no perfect trade. Shave it down to 4 or 5, preferably 4. Um, that work for you. Um, I don't. It got me into trouble. I stopped using it. I use something a little different, the slope. But whatever it is, if it works for you, keep it.
Keep
If
it.
you have too many indicators, your head is gonna spin, and your decision making can become impaired. It's
Huh.
almost like, well, I don't want to get out. I would maybe this was my. I don't want to get out of it because now I'm hoping. Well, this
Oh
one
yeah.
isn't there yet, so um, That's enough on that.
Uh, Shout out to D. Hopefully you're feeling better. I know you had a little accident this morning. Hopefully you're feeling better. Thank you for joining us. We are at time. Coach, you got anything else you want to talk about before we go? I know Coach Hoop is running a class in about 15 minutes, so I want to make sure we give him his time. Make sure you guys
Yep.
check out Coach Hoop in Discord after this for the Fundamentals Forum. Anything else you got before we go, Coach?
Yeah, I want to give Coach Hoop a shout out. Him and his cattle had my eyes going, and I filled my freezer with beef and saved me a lot of money. So
Nice.
thank you, Coach. Tune in. Tune in to all of our coaches. Um, Open your mind, learn, and get better. Have a good evening or morning wherever you are.
Awesome. A couple notes before we go. The opening call. If you join opening call, you might have realized that if you join at our normal time, that the show was already rolling. We're gonna be doing an opening call starting at 7:20 a.m. Central Time this week. Just testing it out. Hogue, JD, and Eddie are gonna be running opening call a little bit earlier than we normally do, just to get in front of some of the numbers, right? Sometimes we have, these 7:30 central numbers that come out, and we're talking about them after the fact, and just to give the team some time to prep for the day. So that's going to be starting at 7:20 a.m. Central Time. Tomorrow we have Dr. Brett Steenbarger joining Topstep TV again, 11 a.m. Central Time. There will be a form to submit questions to Dr. Steenbarger if you haven't done so already, and you want to submit some of those questions. Make sure you check out that form. And actually, here I could pin a link for it so we can get those in now. Uh, you have any questions for Dr. Steenbarger? Place them in that link, and then we also have Jim Dalton coming up on Thursday. So a ton of content for you. Um, Engage with the content as much as possible. Ask questions. It's why we're here. Hopefully to help you with your trading journey. I got nothing else. Trade well, manage your risk, and we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks, Coach.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.